Good evening, everybody. How are you? How you have a good How are you having a good Monday so far? It's making it Monday. I just need to bring my stool down a bit. That's it. I hope you're all well. Gosh, we've got nearly 100 people watching already. That's brilliant. Got some YouTubers in there as well. Now, if I'm too loud, it's because I've got the microphone on. So I'll try not to shout. I hope you've had a good day. It's been a really busy day here for me. I've got so many deadlines and so little time. It always is like that, isn't it? You never seem to have the right amount of hours in the day. Anyway, back to Making It Monday with yours truly. Thank you so much to Kath for last week with her gorgeous pattern, which has been incredibly popular. And I've seen loads made. And that is Carrie. Before I forget to say what the name is. Yeah, I've seen loads made. If you're in the Making It Monday group, certainly I have seen, do you know what? I couldn't even tell you how many. I'd have to go into photos and count them. But I would say at least 20, 25. And I know somebody has made loads and loads and loads for friends. You know, I think we had a picture, I can't remember the names obviously, but we had a picture posted with loads made. And so that's going to be really useful for everybody, isn't it? Because I think we're very conscious, hello Georgiana. We're very conscious, aren't we, of using recyclable sort of shopping bags and things like that. But it's always nice to have one that you've made, and it's always nice to have one that you've chosen the fabric. It's everything about it is special to you. Everything about it you can remember why you made it, why you chose that fabric, why you even chose the poppers. All of those stories that are in your head is all part of that bag. And now it sounds crazy, doesn't it? But you know what? Whether you're 10 or 110, you will always remember the time that you made it, hopefully, and the reasons why, or when you gifted it and who you gifted it to, and all of those things. Incredibly important. Like anything made with fabric, it's all about making memories. I always used to say, and it is still true, you're making heirlooms. And it doesn't matter whether that's a bag or a box or a project book or whatever it is that you're making out of fabric. You're making an heirloom because, of course, it could last for hundreds of years. But don't get too hung up about your stitching and how it looks, because if you were to make it today, whatever that project is, whether it's Carrie or whether it's Lacey, in 20 years time you'll look at it and you'll think, by golly, that's not bad for an old bird, or whatever you might say. That's what I would say. And yes, you pretty much look back on with it with pride, I think. Even though at the time you think, wish I'd done it that way, I wish I'd used that thread, I wish I'd done this, I wish I'd done that. Because we know what, we're always very self-critical. We shouldn't be. We should not be critical, but of course it's human nature that we are. So we have to kind of live with it and just accept that we're going to be critical. It seems such a shame, really. Anyway, this week we're going to make Lacey, and hopefully you've downloaded your pattern. This is what Lacey looks like, at least that's what the pattern looks like. And it's really a lovely make. We've made similar, and if you watch Abigail, Sew with Abigail, she will have made similar as well. But we're going to make the front with mesh, and there is a difference using mesh. Mesh is an interesting product, I think I'm going to say, to work with, because it's quite stretchy, and it's like she's going to show you, it's like a netting and it stretches all over the place, and you need to kind of control it in a way. It's not like bias. Well, I suppose it is. Anyway, you have to keep your eye on it and make sure you do. It does what you tell it to do, but it allows you to put more into a pouch than perhaps you normally would. And when we made Morgan, which is the current gold pattern, one of the things I did was to test how many rulers, because it's a ruler storage system. And one of the things I did, I've got 16 rulers that I use fairly regularly, some not as regularly as others, and I wanted my hanging system here to accommodate all of them. And I worried about the weight of it because it is very heavy, even with just 16 in, but I also wanted to make it so it'll take more than you expect. So in other words, even that top little pocket there, which is quite small, you can actually put probably 10 reels of thread in it, which you normally wouldn't do or couldn't do with vinyl or fabric. So mesh gives you that ability to stuff it to the gunnels, which of course we're very good at as crafters, as stitchers. And of course you could fill it with sweets and things like that and put more in. Now you see, that suits me. That's the bother, isn't it? How many sweets can you get in a pouch? Well, quite a lot if you use mesh. So really Lacey was all about using, if you're a gold member, you'll know that if you've made Morgan or you're going to make Morgan, you'll have mesh left over. And it was coming up with 1 or 2 projects extra that we could use up our mesh. If you're not a gold member, panic not, because on my Amazon shop, by all means, don't go via my shop, go anywhere you like, but I have put some mesh on there. It's by Annie, that's what it's called, by Annie, and I've put the mesh on there on the Making It Monday little page, which I'm starting to build up, or the main page, and the main page has loads of different colours in. So I'm using white. I find white to be perfectly fine for most of my projects, but you might want coloured. I think they do reds and blues and greens and yellows and all sorts of lovely colours, so fill your boots. But yeah, so the idea is that we do something a little bit different. Now, if you haven't got mesh and you don't want to use mesh, then by all means use vinyl or just use fabric. But obviously the idea is that we can see through it, and you can see perfectly well the reels of thread in there. If we have a quick look on the side camera, actually, let's go for the side camera, slightly different angle today. You can see what it looks like in the flesh, so to speak. I've used some gorgeous fabric. If I turn that around, you can see it's all safety pins and needles. Beautiful. And complementary sort of stripy fabric there, which I'm quite into at the moment. Thank you for putting my link up there. And obviously I've put some thread in there so you can see through it. That's the main thing. The other thing was, when I considered making this for you all, was I wanted, when you opened it, to have the right side of the fabric. The fabric's lovely, and I didn't want you to look at the wrong side, so that's why we've got 2 layers of fabric. And you might wonder why in the pattern there's 2. Well, that's the reason why, because we're using the inside as pretty as the outside. That's the idea. Don't have to, but I think I quite like it. Tonight I'm going to do something just slightly different, and I will get to it in a second, because I wanted to try something different for you as well. So there we are. So there is Lacey. Obviously you can see now why I've called her Lacey. And while you're on that camera there, let me show you the mesh. It's only a small piece, so if you buy some, you'll have loads to make all sorts of projects with. But look, I want you to have a look. So it stretches this way, and it stretches that way. Now that way doesn't stretch as much. I don't know if you can see. It does not stretch as much. But this way, it really stretches. Look at that. It's quite zingy. Quite zingy. Okay? Which means that when you fill your pouch, when you fill Lacey, you can, I could probably, I don't know how many threads are in there. Hold on, let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's 11 reels of thread. I think I could easily get 20 or 30 reels in there. No problems at all. So that was the main consideration when I wanted to use up the mesh. I thought, right, okay, it's going to be a bag that can perhaps take all of those threads, but also lots of other things as well, like chocolate. Not that I'm obsessed. Now on this one and the one I'm going to make, I changed the zip pull, which makes it interesting, don't you think? It just makes it a little bit more interesting. So that's something you can consider as well. I won't go through that tonight because we've covered that a few times. So really all we need to do now is kind of get going on this and get you started. The main thing tonight, I'll just bring in my bits and bobs. is, let's put Lacey somewhere else, there we go, is that I have actually covered one of my pieces with vinyl. Can you see? So this is one piece, this is the same fabric. Let me put it side by side, and if I catch the light you can see that one is definitely shiny and one is not. So if I work this out right in my head, this is going to be on the inside of my Lacey, which means if I want to, I could use it for, you know, toiletries, that type of thing. Now please don't worry if you see my ships and houses are upside down. This is multi-directional fabric, okay? So, and this is a square, so I can move it if I want, but I'm not going to take any notice. I suppose I quite like that lighthouse in the middle, but you know what it is? There's no way I'm going to get it in the middle or even remember. That's what I said. It's tough, it's tough. when you're doing it yourself, you can sit and think about it. So never mind. So I've actually put a link on my Amazon shop for the vinyl. Now then, I just want to tell you about this. It's by Thermolam, or Bond, not Bondaweb, Heat and Bond, and it's quite big. You can't see it all on screen. Perhaps we'll go to the front in a sec. And it comes with gridded. I want you to let me flash it. There we go. There's the vinyl bit, and it's kind of sticky on the back side. And this is the carrier sheet. Now it's not cheap. Please don't think you're going to get this for £3.50. You are absolutely not. It's expensive stuff. So I want you to think about it before you think, oh yeah, I'm going to do that. I think you get about 10 metre. I'm going to guess, but perhaps one of the girls can look it up on my website. I can't remember now what the dimensions are. It's 17 inches long, so it's quite long, but I can't remember the meterage. Because I never keep packaging, of course. Now what you do is, and perhaps right at the end what we'll do is I'll demonstrate it. Let me just get a corner of it if I can. And what you do is you peel the shiny side. Let me see if I can get this. You know what happens when you're trying to do something and you can't. I don't know if I can't do it now, I'll do it in a minute. Oh, there, I think I've got it now. There we go. So you peel it away, yeah, like this, right? And on this side, on the back side, it's sticky. It's not uber sticky, but it's sticky. Oh, 5 yards. Thank you so much. I love you all. So this side is sticky, right? I'll perhaps demonstrate it for you later on. And you attach that to your fabric, whatever that fabric is. And obviously you can cut a bigger piece, and then just a bigger piece of fabric rather, and cover it, and then cut your piece out, or you cut it exactly and try and stick it on. I will leave that for you to decide. But what you do is you stick that onto the right side of your fabric, sticky side down, and then you use your carrier sheet over the top to iron it down, and it sticks. It's absolutely super. So there's lots of projects you could use it for, but I did think it would be good to do it on the inside of Lacey. But that's just me giving you an extra thought. Okay, you don't have to do that. You don't have to use the mesh. You could use vinyl. You definitely don't have to use this iron-on vinyl. You can just leave it as is. But I just like to think that you're getting value for money by getting some different choices on things. Okay, well, hopefully that makes sense anyway. So the main thing we're going to do now is obviously we're going to start putting it together. I'll perhaps go back to that side camera in a minute. I don't know if I'll be able to get my machine in, but we'll give it a go. And if you go by the pattern, which hopefully I will, there's no guarantees. The first thing we're going to do is to put the zip onto the mesh. Now, you could do all of this at another stage, okay, and I'll talk to you about that as we go along, because like every pattern I do, and I'm sure Kath's the same. Oh, I've got something red on there. you make the pattern, you do it a certain way, and when you've finished it and a couple of days later you think, oh, actually I could have done it that way or that way. That's just the nature of it. So I think probably I'll bring my ironing mat in so we can see, and maybe I'll just go on the overhead just for a second, just to show you this bit. I'll turn Abigail's Avid Crafts around. So you're going to use some binding, and I've already prepared one and I'll do another, and all that the dimensions are in the pattern, and I really would love it if you went and got the pattern rather than me giving you all the measurements and instructions, and I think for £1 it's really good value. So I'm just popping my iron on because I think you've probably seen me do binding before, but it's always good to see it again. Now look, you can see I have cut my binding way bigger than my pouch piece, okay, and that's fine. In the pattern I tell you exactly how much to cut. This is correct, but I've just gone rogue really, and I've cut more, and that's fine. You can cut it to absolute, you know, if you're sort of stuck for fabric, if you like, if you've got the scrappiest piece of fabric, then maybe you're only going to do it to that width. But you know what, I've got a fair bit of this red stripy stuff, so I thought I'd treat myself and go that little bit bigger, and then I can just trim it back. So I'm going to pop that to one side for a moment, and we're just going to concentrate on doing our binding. So obviously you've got the width. The first thing I always do, this is not bias. If it was bias, my stripes would be going diagonally. So the first thing we're going to do is just fold this in half. We've done this before, guys and gals, but it's always nice to see it again. And you're just bringing your raw edges together like that, so you've got it folded in half. If that's strobing on your screen, I am so sorry, because it's strobing on mine. Then you're going to open it up as you would normally do, and you're going to press to the center. So these long raw edges are going to the center where you've just made a crease, and the crease is there really just as a guide, okay, just as a guide. If you want to go rogue and do it without putting that center crease in, you do it. I'll tell you what I need my clapper, so let me just get that. There we go. And then all you're going to do is flip it round and bring the other long edge to the middle again. If you can hear some funny noises, it's my neighbours. They're lovely. It could be my dog, because there's a pussycat that comes into our garden and Millie goes absolutely mental. I can hear her. I don't know if John would be able to hear her. So you've got your two long raw edges going to the centre, okay, and then you're going to fold it again. And this is where apply some good heat. So make sure your iron is, you know, medium to hot, and then put your clapper on it. The one that I made earlier, I just popped my clips in there while it was hot just to hold it, and all that's done is held those creases in place. I don't know if you can hear the dog, she's going mental. There must be a cat. There must be a cat. He's a lovely pussycat. He's got a really big bushy tail. So I suppose perhaps Millie thinks it's a squirrel, I don't know, but she goes mental when she hears it. Now what you've got there, look, is a really crispy bit of binding, and really that really helps, because what we're going to do is pop our mesh right in the centre, so our mesh goes right to the middle. Let me try and bend that back. As best you can, and then it's just going to go over the top, and we're just going to stitch all the way along there in one go. Now if you haven't got this really super duper accurately pressed, you might find that when you stitch from the top it doesn't catch the underside, okay, but if you remember that this is always your front, you know what, really doesn't matter what the back looks like, because that's going to be on the inside, and if anybody looks inside your pouch, you need just to slap the back of their hands because they don't need to. Now, so what we're going to do is we're just going to put some clips on there to hold. Now don't forget, when you're using these lovely quilting clips, you've got a flat edge. I don't know if you can see on my mat, but you've got a flat edge like that. And the idea is that you open it up with a finger and just slide it on, because the flat edge sits on your table, your top, whatever you're using. And then likewise, when you're stitching, you can just press that and pull it away, assuming you've got the flat edge against your surface. So it's a nice little tip. Okay, so I'm going to try going to the side camera because I got it set up for a different angle today. I have no idea if it's going to work, but we'll give it a go. See what happens. If it doesn't work very well, we can resort to something else. So this is the side camera now. Let me just move my little phone there. Bring my machine in. Hold on. I was going to get my smaller machine, but there we are. You can just about see, it's not too bad. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm using my regular foot, it's just my regular foot there, and I'm just going to top stitch that in place. Because my binding is longer than my mesh, it means that I don't have to start stitching right on the edge, because that's when you could lose your oops, what was that, my scissors? You could lose your material down into your machine, often happens. Now I'm stitching, well, a good 1/16 of an inch in, and that's just to make sure that I'm catching all of my layers. And then I'm just cutting as I go. So if we have a look at it, you can see what that looks like. Okay, and if we look at the back, I'll look at it before you look at it. It's not so bad. And because we did a stitch that was, or a seam if you like, a good 1/16 of an inch away from the fold of the binding, it means that we've easily caught the back. Yes, you could use Eau de Coat or Fabricoat in place of the vinyl, absolutely, but it's a new product that I haven't used with you guys before, so it's nice to use something else. The only problems I find with things like Eau de Coat, well, it's not a problem, is that you have to wait for it to dry, if you like. So let's just go back to the front camera just for a memento. Just push this out of the way. I haven't heard Millie, so I think John went and sorted her out. So there's my lovely bit of mesh done. So all we need to do now is put the zip in on one side. Now, like I said, you can do this now, or you can do it at another time, all right? But I would, as I do it, I need to get my scissors. As I do it, I will tell you what I think of doing it a different way. So now what we're going to do, and let's just go back to this lovely side camera again, because it's such a good little angle, is we're going to put our zip in. You might think, oh my goodness me, what a ridiculous colour. But when you start looking at the fabric, it really works, doesn't it? Really works. But you wouldn't do if you just saw that. You think, what's she doing? So quilter's tape, let's make it easy for ourselves. Now our Jackie Thomas has a wonderful tip, which of course I haven't done yet, is to put your quilter's tape into a little bag, and that stops it drying out. She's absolutely right. So all I'm going to do is put my quilter's tape, and again you can see my zip is far too long. There's reasons why I do these things. Of course you can cut it to the exact width, of course you can, but sometimes having it longer than you need is really useful. Let me just cut it off there. So there we go. Right, so I've got my quilter's tape on one side of my zip. There we go. I'll try and keep in shot for you. And I'm just going to squidge it down so it really sticks to my zip. For those people that say they can never get the back off, the trick is to always burnish it down, and I'm burnishing it, pushing it into the fibres of the fabric of the zip. So then all you're going to do is peel the back away like that. You might also think, if you're a right-hander, you might go like that. So obviously this is upside down. If you're a left-hander, you might want to go right to left. So think about where your zip pull is. So I'm a right-hander, so my natural thing would be to go from left to right. If I turn that around for you to see, if you're a right-hander, let's bring it back. If you're a right-hander, you're going to grab that zip pull and you're going to go like that, aren't you? If you're a left-hander, possibly you're going to go the other way. So think about where your zip pull is. And then all you're going to do is lay this on top. And actually, I'm going to lay it like that. And you could, let's have a look at the original one. There's the original one. I want you to see where the zip teeth is. The idea of these sort of zips is to make them visible. If I wanted this, didn't want to see the zip teeth, I would do the zip and put the zip in a different way. But I like to see the red of the zip teeth and the tape. You may not. You may want it to be a lot neater. So in other words, the seam comes right up to the edge of the teeth. That's up to you. But I like it where I can see a lot of the zip tape. Okay, can you see what that looks like? And the reason I've put this up to, wait a minute, let's have a look at it this way. This edge right up to the end of the mesh is because I can then move this slider out of the way. So if I snip that, like that, and I can snip this, excuse my hand for a moment, like that. What it means is that when I'm stitching, I can take my zip right over there, so I don't have to worry about it, if at all I was worried. The other thing you could do is actually just use half the zip, and then at some point you're going to put the zip slider on. Okay, so you could do it that way if you wanted to, but let's just stitch it on like that. That's absolutely fine. I'm really happy with how that's looking. So let's just bring the machine in. Hopefully you can see fairly well. It's a different angle I'm trying on you. See if you like that angle. And I'm just going to change my regular foot for a zipper foot. And my zipper foot looks like that. Let me hold it so you can see. Okay. So you want to think about which side of the notch you want your needle to be, either on the left side or the right side. So I'm putting it on the right side, and it's just got a little grab bar. Theoretically, you can drop the foot automatically, but I never do. Old-fashioned. So now I'm just going to start stitching. Now, to be perfectly honest, you probably could use your regular foot with this, because it's because the fabric is so far away from the teeth. And then we're just going to go all the way down. And if you can, try to match up the same width, like 1/16 of an inch thereabouts on your stitching, so you've got a nice neat finish. Okay, now we've come to the end of this zip. All I'm going to do here, I'm going to just lift my needle up a bit, and I'm just going to finish the end of that zip off if I can. Doesn't want to. So you can just, it's kind of got my zipper foot on. Let's just turn it around. Try it that way. It's not going to like it, is it? So let's just leave it. If I had my regular foot on, it would be fine. So you can just stitch across that end if you want to. There. If you want. Anyway, so we've now stitched, we've now stitched our zip in place on that side. So let me just refer to the pattern to make sure I'm doing this the same as you. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Okay, so I think we'll go on the overhead just to have a look at the next stage. So bear with, I'll just move the machine out the way. There we go. So this is what we've got. And if you want to, you can trim this off, but there's no reason at this stage why you would need to. Let's keep it so the zip slider's way out of the way so you don't have to think about it. And then what we're going to do, we're going to make our sandwich. And our sandwich is our fabrics, obviously. Now, as I said before, this is my vinyl piece. Look, it's flashing. Okay, and I want this to be on the inside of my bag. So in this case, and you know, this because I need this to be a certain way, I want to see the front of my zip. So the front being, you can see the slider, you can see my really nice neat row of stitching. This is the front. So if I was to move it like that, oops, there we go. That's what it looks like. So my mesh is sitting right over the top, and it's not easy to see because it's mesh. And because that's showing me the right side, I know that is going to be correct for my pouch. Don't worry that the vinyl piece is going to come over, it really doesn't matter. And then what you're going to do is do right sides together with your other piece. Now obviously if you're using directional fabric, you really want to think about it. Because obviously this top bit's going to come over eventually. That I don't think matters so much, but what I want you to consider is if your fabric is directional, let's put that back, you want your direction of fabric to go from top to bottom, from bottom to top, from bottom to top, okay? So if it's going that way, that's how you want to put it on there, okay? So you're making a sandwich, and all we're going to do is stitch along this bottom edge. So let me just get some clips, because I've used this vinyl, it's very slippery. So I'm just pinning or clipping my 3 layers together. Okay, so it doesn't move. We're going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance. There we go. Not lying very straight, but we'll give it a bit of a wriggle. And so this is our bottom seam here. So if we open it up, I'm sorry for keep moving things around. If we open it up, that's what you're looking at, okay? You're looking at the front of your mesh, the right side of the inside of your pouch eventually, and then you've got the right side facing down of your outer piece, if you like, and we're just going to stitch along this bottom edge here. I'm just checking, making sure my pictures match what I'm saying. When they do, that's lucky. So we're just going to pop it under the machine. We're going to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance going all the way along. So I hope that's clear. Hope you're okay with all of that. Let's just bring the machine in. If at any time you're totally and utterly confused, will you say, and then I'll stop and we'll regroup and I'll go over it again. So now I'm just changing my foot out to my regular foot. Now it's possible I might run out of thread, by the way, on the bobbin, because I looked earlier. Oh, sorry, I haven't changed you. I've changed my foot, so I've got my regular foot. I might run out of bobbin. I'll just keep my eye on it. But I looked at it earlier and I thought, I'm going to play bobbin roulette. Now, because the vinyl is on the inside of my bag, I don't need to worry about any slippy slidey going on, okay? It's perfectly fine in there. All right, let's just get my foot. So 1/4 inch seam allowance, regular stitch length, and off we go. I've already got this machine set on a 1/4 inch seam allowance, so I don't really have to think about it too much. And we're just going all the way across. Let's get that clip out of the way. And if you need to trim, then trim. because things move. I haven't got my walking, this is my walking foot, I haven't got my walking foot on, so it has moved a little bit, but I'm okay with that. So all I've done is I've stitched across that bottom seam and just check to make sure you've caught all your edges, which I have. Good. Multi-dimensional fabric, yes, that's right. It's actually, I always recommend that for new people. Non-directional or multi-directional is the best way to go. So there's our bottom seam done. So we've gone along here, and if I open it up, that's what it looks like. Now please be aware that I would not put an iron anywhere near this mesh, all right, unless you've got a pressing cloth or something over the top. But really, it's 100% polyester. It will probably melt. Because I've got the vinyl on here as well, I'm certainly not going to put an iron on that, because that will definitely melt. So now what we're going to do is bring our, I'm going to just flip this over like that and bring our two layers together. Okay, so none of this is ironed. If you haven't used the vinyl, then use a cloth over the top of that, and if you want to press that, press it, but it's not crucial. So what we're going to do now, and I'm just going to check my pattern to make sure I'm telling you right, is you could, if you wanted to, you could do a little running stitch along here to hold all your layers together, because now we're going to put the binding on this other short side here. Okay, this top side. Now, when I said to you earlier that you could do this in a slightly different way, you could, if you wanted to, make this part up like this, where you've got all your pieces joined here, and then you can do this part, the zip and the binding. Okay, so it's just another way of putting it together if you want to. So what we're going to do now is put our binding on here. Now if you've pressed it really well, and if you've got a clapper, you've used a clapper, then you'll get a lovely creased bit of binding. Now you'll have seen me put my pin through my vinyl, but if you could put you can, but put it on the seam allowance. Okay, we're going to probably stitch very close to that. Don't pin anywhere other than in your seam allowance, because all those holes will make a difference. And so we're going to just work our way along and put our clips in like that. And if I bring it in so you can see it, you can see how that looks. So really, you know, that's as simple as it gets at the moment. So I'm going to stitch my binding on just like I did before. So I'm going to stitch here on this inside edge here, and then what we'll do is we'll flip this over and then we'll stitch it to our zip. Okay, so one thing at a time. We're going to stitch this bit first, and yes, it's longer. That's fine, I can trim it back. I'm perfectly happy with that. And like I said before, if you've got a little bit of extra fabric, then why not? Why not? Okay, so again, you can change your foot out. We'll use our regular foot at the moment, but you can change your foot out when we get to put the zip in. So foot down. Now this is the wrong side, so you might want to flip this over and stitch the other side, because this is going to come over to the front. But I'll just stick with what I'm doing. So if you think, oh, I really want to make a really nice neat job of it, let me just put my walking foot down. Hold on, let's just do that again. That's it. Just be aware that I'm stitching the wrong side at the moment. So just make your way along. A walking foot is good because I'm using the vinyl, and you're just going to make a really nice neat job of putting that vinyl on. There we go. So that's our first bit of stitching done. So don't forget, because this is the vinyl, that's going to go like that. So you want to make sure that it's really well stitched on this side as well. So if I were you, I would stitch from the back. So now we've joined both layers together. See, we've done the vinyl and we've got the outer fabric, and we've stitched those together. So now what we need to do is to stitch the zip in. So now this is where you might get yourself into a little bit of bother, because, let's just do it the other way, because you want to top stitch this zip down. Let's trim this end here now. And you want it to be right, so we're going to use quilter's tape to stick it down. There we go. And what you could do is open up this zip to make sure that you can get all the way along without any bother. So if we open this right up, and this is where, if you use half a zip and then put your slider on, it will be much easier. But I know a lot of you already have a little fear of zips, so maybe that's just a little bit too much to ask. So what we're going to do is we're going to start stitching from this end here, the open end, and then we'll work our way down to the bottom. Or are we going to do it the other way around? No, we'll do it the other way around. So I'm going to put my quilter's tape on. In fact, I could take the end off because I find that much easier. And we're going to do exactly what we did before, and just pop our quilter's tape. Oh, I tell you what, I don't know if any of you saw my to glue based or not to based on my blog on the website. You could actually use that. Let me show you. It's this. And you could use that instead, and you just want little dots, tiny little dots. Fantastic stuff. And then you can use an iron to dry it quickly, and then you can stitch, or you can just leave it to dry and then stitch. So it depends on what fabrics etc you're using, but you could use that instead. Okay, so let me just check my instructions. I don't want to go wrong for you. It's like all of these sort of projects, they're made weeks in advance, and sometimes we lose track. We have to read the pattern to make sure we keep you on track. So there we are. So there's my glue tape removed, the backing, there you go. So all we're going to do is bring this other one around and just make sure it's lined up with the other. Make sure that the width between the zip is exactly the same, and then just lay it down, give it a little squidge as you go. Hold on, that's really not straight, and I really want to make it straight. I want to take this to La La Land on Saturday. Well, I might see you Sunday, but you know what I'm saying, we're going Saturday. So if you've glued that down, you've now got a super duper easy, just stitch along there and you're done. But of course I'm going to put my zipper foot on just to make sure it doesn't interfere with my zip, because I mean I could take my zip pull right up here again, but you'd find it quite difficult to top stitch that with the zip closed, and that's why it's a good idea sometimes to actually remove the zip slider and just stitch it loose. I mean it really does make a huge difference. But I'll do it like perhaps you would do it. So I'm going to start stitching from this end here. I think that's what I said, didn't I? It says there's another way, or do I do it from that end? Or maybe I'll do it from that end. I can't remember now, but there's an easier way, whether you stitch it from the open end or the closed end. You'll be able to tell me. You're always good at telling me, so you can tell me. I forget. It's the age. It's true. So I can take my walking foot off. It's just an attachment because it's a fancy machine, you see. Right, so this time I'm going to put it on the left hand side because I'm going to go from the other side. There we go. And I'm just going to start stitching. So you'll need to sort of move, sorry you can't see. So I'm going to start stitching from let me bring this around so you can see. I'm going to start stitching up here and come all the way down, and you just have to manipulate it. Okay. Never know how you could get a zipper jig. Oh, yes, there are such things as a zipper jig, but you don't really need it. But, you know, horses for courses and all that. I'm not one to tell you what to do. What's happened there? That's not quite right, is it? Let's do that again. Oh, that's going to... Just bear with me a second, guys, because my zipper foot, I'm going to change it because my needle is not in the right place. Well, that's a bit strange. I'm going to put my regular foot on. I'll bring my stitch length down. Now that's weird, isn't it? Never seen that before. You'll not. Oh, that's, I know why. I'm such a fool. Hold on. It's because I've got it on my 1/4 inch stitch. Right. Oh gosh, have you ever done that? I've kept it on my 1/4 inch stitch, so when I put my zip on, my zipper foot on, of course the needle is not sitting where it should do because I had it on a 1/4 inch stitch mark. What a twit. Common sense, not. Right, so we're just going to start stitching, and again try to keep your seam allowance, your stitch where you're going, where you're oh gosh, about 1/16 of an inch from the top. Do you think I need a sherry? So you're just coming all the way down, and just be careful when you get to this end here. Just be careful when you get to here, because this zip is obviously, this slider could easily come off the end unless you've stitched across here, which of course you could do. But as I come to it, look, all I can do is open this up, and it's dead easy, dead easy. And yes, it is easier to stitch from the open end than the closed end. I knew there was a way, I was just, you know, can't think sometimes. See the wood for the trees and all that. So just be careful you're not stitching anything else except where you want to be. And of course using the glue really helps you guys. Honestly, it really helps. Sending me sherry, thanks. Let's just show you what I've done. Okay, so if I close it, don't forget you're not taking it off the end. Let me just try and get that so you can see it. All right, so we've done the mesh, and now we've done the main body. Beautiful. Looks really neat, doesn't it? There you go. So now I just need to trim my zip back, because I don't need it now to be that long and it will get in the way. So while you're still there, I'll put my regular foot on. And did you see I got a mention on Sewing Street today? I know. I just happened to be switched on. So all I'm doing is going over my zip tab, my zip end, just to make sure it's not going to come apart. Yeah, I just happened to be watching, and Sarah and John gave me a mention. Isn't that lovely? So I recorded it, put it on my page. And it's true, I did teach her how to sew bags with the dies, because we had a little sesh one day at our house, and I must have told you this story a million times, but I'd gone for the day. So my day would be, you know, 10 till 4 maybe. So look, I've just stitched across that end. Now I'm going to cut it. And we'd made, I don't know, maybe 3 bags, different sorts of fabrics, different ways, blah, 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 all of that. And I thought, right, it's time to go. It's about 4 o'clock. She cooked me lunch. Sarah had cooked me lunch. It was wonderful. And she said, oh no, I want to make another one. And this time I'm going to I'm going to make one out of faux leather. Really? And she did. God bless her, she did. She was not frightened in any way. She was really prepared to have a go. And although she'd stitched before, you know, I didn't actually teach her how to use a machine. She'd stitched before, but yeah, she thoroughly enjoyed the session and really got me working, as is her way. So look, what you're going to do now, that's how far we've got. What time is it? Oh, we've got 10 minutes, easy. So that's how far you've got. That's the dog. Oh, crikey. She's having a bit of a sesh. So just make sure that your mesh is at the bottom there, okay? So in other words, if when you fold it like that, then you're going to have a little meshy overhang. Not so good. So I would say fold it on that bottom edge. Put clips on it if you want, just to hold it in place. And that's your natural fold. And if you want to, give it a little press. Be very careful of the mesh. Please be careful. So leaving it so you've got wrong sides together. Okay, so you're looking at the nice slider there. So we know that it's now wrong sides together. I want you to stitch down these two sides. We're going to do a French seam, guys. I love a French seam. Just make sure that both of these tops, the width here from the zip to the top is the same. Because if it's wonky, you ain't gonna like it. You'll unpick it, trust me. So we're going to stitch about 1/8 of an inch from top to bottom on both sides. We're going to just neaten it up a little bit. We're going to turn it through and stitch again about 1/4 inch. What we need to do is bury that first seam inside the second seam, so it's incredibly neat. Please don't worry that there's a zip there. Your machine should still be able to take it perfectly fine. I'll just give that a little trim. And open up your zip, just in case. So we'll go to the side. Now I'm going to use my regular foot, and we'll stitch that little side bit there. Not sure about the angle. I'm going to bring it in. To be honest, it's much better for me because it's the machine, as you can see on the front there, is almost right in front of me. Something that I never do. I never have it. Even when I'm stitching on my own, my machine is at an angle because I'm so used to that. Right, so I would say start from the bottom. Okay, so let me just bring this up so you can see. Start from this bottom corner here, because that you know that the mesh is exactly where you want it to be, and do that on both sides. So you're starting from the bottom and coming up to the top. Okay, if you start from the top and come down, I bet anything you like, your mesh won't be where you want it to be. Okay, so you just need to make sure it's on that bottom seam. And also, that's just a wee bit squiffy, so let me just trim that. And I'm going to use my regular foot, and I'm going to do a little back stitch. And again, that's it. And I'll trim this back a bit. Now be aware that your mesh will stretch, so don't pull it like, look, see, if I pull that, you can see, and let me do it this side, maybe you can see it better. If I pull that, it will move. It will. Okay, so don't pull it. Just let it be where it wants to be. And just, it's not difficult to sew. There's nothing difficult about it. You just got to keep your eye on it. And then when you come up to the top, do a nice little back stitch and break your threads. Now, if you're a YouTuber, or if you watch YouTube anyway, whether you're on Facebook now or not, you really ought to, let me go back, really ought to find the YouTube channel, The Last Homely House, okay? I knew that wasn't on. I was watching her last night, she's going to start doing a project making a sort of like a borrow jacket. And if you don't know what borrow is, B-O-R-O, look it up. It's a lovely Japanese way of stitching something, and it's really meant to be sort of like a make do and mend, which anyway, she's making a jacket, but she's got some lovely videos to watch. And she was talking the other day about leaders and followers. One day we'll cover that and I'll show you all about it. Anyway, there's my 2 outer seams done. So don't forget, this is the right side of your fabric you're stitching, and I'm going to trim this back. Okay, I'm going to trim it back. So let me just move the machine. And when I say trim, in fact, let me get my gorgeous scissors. If any of you treated yourself to these scissors, which I did a blog for, a review, they are awesome. It doesn't say that they're made in Japan, it doesn't say any of that, but by golly, they are good. And I save them for when I really want to do a lot of snippy, just fine snipping, because they get right in to the, let me just try and get that so you can see it. They get really right in. Some scissors you use and they push the fabric away. They're not friendly, whereas these are very friendly. I wouldn't worry about going over your zip, even though it's a nylon zip and you might panic about it. In my world, I don't think that's a huge issue, but I wouldn't cut card with them. Anyway, I've trimmed these side seams back. Okay, so this seam here is not lovely and neat, and that's the front of my pouch. You can see the zip slider. Sorry, gosh, you'd never think I'd demonstrated before in my life. So that's a lovely neat job, and I've trimmed it right back. What would it be? A good about 1/16 of an inch. You can hardly see the seam, but it's just, can you see? It's just there. So we're going to turn this through. Just keep your zip slider away from this edge now. You're going to turn it through and you're going to do another seam about 1/4 inch. Be generous with it. Don't try to stint, because you'll end up unpicking it and doing it again. So turn it through, and mine is crunchy because I'm using the vinyl, but yours won't be. Just give it a little time. If you're using just regular fabric, yours will be fine. I don't want to damage my vinyl. I don't think I will, but you know, just don't be too gung-ho. And you want to push these corners out. So if I show it to you like this, looks grotty. So we're going to get our little, oh dear. This is actually a turning tool, but it's just gorgeous for delicate little areas like this, where you really don't want to go crazy, but you want a decent enough job. So let's just push this out. And now you're going over the zip again. If you stay well clear of the seam that you've just created, all will be fine. So take heed, about 1/8 of an inch to trim back to, and then now we're going to do 1/4 inch. So you can see what that looks like. So I'm okay with that. I'm okay with all of that. It doesn't matter this time whether you start from the bottom or the top. When you get to the zip, gosh, I've got some threads there that could do with cutting. The zip will want to sort of come in a little bit. It will roll over. So when you get to it, push it out, okay? Otherwise it naturally wants to come in. It's not going to make a huge difference, but it's just a nice, really nice, neat finished job if you do it carefully. So once again, put a foot down. You can do a back stitch. So let's do a back stitch. Make your way down. Like I say, push that zip out as best you can. I know it's not easy for you to see, guys, but there we go. nice and carefully over the zip teeth. Treat your machine with respect. And now we're making a French seam. So where it sounds like, oh my gosh, there's no way I'm going to be able to do that, it's just 2 rows of straight stitching. I'm pretty sure you can do that. So that's one side. I'm perfectly happy now just to turn my work around and stitch from the other direction, because my other seam is holding everything in place. So I don't need to worry. Let's just give it a back stitch. And of course you could make these in different sizes. So look at the measurements that I've given you and then think about the different sizes that you might want to create. So again, you're getting to that zip here now. You can't see it very well, but just push that zip out as best you can and just try and keep to that 1/4 inch seam allowance as best you can, and go carefully over that zip. Don't be gung-ho. Yeah, so last homely house on YouTube. Go and look her up, because she's lovely, and she's ever such a pleasant lady to sit and listen to. She's got a lovely, soft, soothing voice, and she's got lots of stories to tell, and yeah, she's lovely. Kate. So now, once again, you're going to push it through. Be careful if you're using the mesh, even though it's a polyester. I want you to be careful and push it through. Okay. So, use your thumb. Got some threads there which I need to tidy up. There's always a thread, isn't there? Always. Oh, there's always something and you think, oh goodness, I never saw that. So just this one here, just push that out. I'm using my nail, but use a nice soft pokey tool. Do not go mad. Do not use your scissors. There's a lot of do nots there, wasn't there? Now, because we've used the vinyl inside, you can see, it's now waterproof, so I could put my bath sponge in there if I want to. Obviously the binding isn't waterproof, neither is the zip, so come on. Maybe you'd want to do something about that, but I wouldn't bother. But now you've got the most amazing little pouch. And a little earlier, I haven't stitched it yet, but I made a little this is exactly the same as the binding. It's a 1-inch strip that I folded in half and half again. And what I wanted to do, and I won't do it now, is actually put a little tie. I'm going to stitch it and then put a little tie on my zip pull. I'm not going to be able to do it now, am I? She says, still trying. I won't be able to do it now, but I'll do it later. And I was going to have a zip, a little tie on there, so that's something else you can do. Okay, and that's just 1 inch, and the length of that is, hold on, 6.5 inches, but make it as long as you like. And I'll just bring those ends together and just zigzag the ends once it's on my zip. Okay, that's all I'll do. So that is the pouch. Do you want to quickly have a look at how to do the vinyl? Yeah, I'll take it as a yeah. Even though you haven't said anything. So let's just bring a piece in. Obviously you're not going to use your best scissors, so let's just cut a little square, and I'll find some scrap. Scrap. Hold on, I've got some Egyptian cotton here. If you haven't already, go and treat yourself to some Egyptian cotton. It's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous, like silk. Okay. So white isn't a particularly good colour to use, but I think you'll get the gist of it. So I've got my scrap fabric, I've got my little piece of vinyl, so I've cut that directly from the roll. Okay, this is the vinyl side, obviously. This is the grid. So if I want to do a particular size, obviously, then we've got the grid to help us. But basically, that is just the carrier sheet. So what you're going to do is you're going to peel it away. So both layers. There we go. Just peel it like that. And this is the sticky side, don't forget. So peel it off the carrier sheet and pop it down onto your project. Pop your iron on. So you don't want it on super duper hot, just sensible hot. So medium is fine. So you can see the square, but we need to set that. Now, the idea is that you pop your scrap over the top, but please can I make a suggestion? Keep your other pieces that are bigger, okay? Because to actually place that exactly and to keep it there exactly, you know, that's a skill. So I would just keep your scrap. So if you've done a big piece like I've done, keep that, it's absolutely perfect. And then all you're going to do is iron over the top. Now I don't think there was a way, I mean I might be wrong, but I don't think there was a way whether you do back and front. But this has got, you can see it's like a waxy. So I'm figuring that you just use that side. And that's enough, you don't need to do any more. It's just got super hot now. So that is my vinyl attached. It's incredibly easy. So I know you talked about Odie Coat and Fabric Coat. I get that totally. I've used it in the past, but actually this is super duper easy. Plus it's incredibly thin. Okay, there's no texture to this at all. It's very smooth. It doesn't alter the thickness of your fabric. Okay, it doesn't give you, there's no texture there apart from the fact that it's more slippy than the fabric. But what it does, it gives you that look of vinyl, hopeless. That look of vinyl that you might need for a wash bag or something like that, or even an outside bag. And to be honest, even if you were making a little girl's coat or little boy's coat and you want to make it waterproof, this is really nice. Okay, so I know it's a considered purchase, I totally get that, and I was very concerned about whether I should tell you about it or not, because I don't want you to go and spend your money willy-nilly. That's not what I do, but actually it does make a difference to your project. So I've now got a waterproof bit of white fabric. What do I do with it? And by all means test it. It will go through the washing machine 30 degrees, pretty much the same as anything else you would use on your fabrics. But like I say, it doesn't leave any texture. It's lovely and smooth. It doesn't alter your fabric hardly a jot. So it will still feel like you're using the same fabric. Anyway, nice to have something different. So this is our second little pouch. Could actually now do with a little press. It's quite sweet, isn't it? There we go, have a closer look. And I'll put a little zip pull on there as well. There we go. I'm going to give it a press in a little while, but I'm going to press from this side. I don't want to ruin it. I'll take it to Lala. Okay, so that's me done for another Monday night. It's been an absolute treat to be with you. I had a last Monday off. We went out and about in the motorhome, which was wonderful. Still did work, but you know, it was still great. I still had a rest. I had the most amazing roast dinner at the local public house. It's delicious. We were talking about it today because it was so delicious. It's only because I don't cook, so anything that's been done by somebody else is always very delicious. Anyway, thank you so much for your company. So my gold ladies, I will see you on Thursday. Thursday we've got a treat because Kath is going to do our mid-month madness pattern on Thursday. So that'll be her and I together doing a Facebook Live in the gold group, so you need to be a gold member to see that, and obviously to get another free pattern. It's a lovely pattern as well, I can tell you. We're spoilt rotten, really. And then if I don't see you on Thursday because you're not a gold member, I might see you on Sunday at La La Land. Gosh, that's going to be a busy day. John packed all my boxes up today. Maybe I should have hired a van. Don't know. Let's see if we can get it all in. I think there's going to be a bit of shoving and pushing to get it all in. There's lots. 7 big boxes plus some. Anyway, right, I'm going to leave you to it. So lovely to see you. I'm sorry I've run over time, but I'm sure you don't mind. And I'll see you all later. I'll leave you with my picture. Bye.